everybody. Commissioner Eccles here. Happy Friday to you. Happy Super Bowl weekend. And I'm going to be starting a series. I'm doing everything on StreamYard and Zoom these days because we can't have meetings. Capitol, at least our building's empty. We're going to be doing an Ask the Expert series throughout the year. And it's great to start this off today with another UGA grad, David Huetter. David, how's it going?
Doing fine. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm a big Tom Brady fan, and I'll tell you why. My daughter married into a Patriots family. The dad, her father-in-law works. Her father-in-law works at the stadium. I mean, he runs the stat booth for the Patriots, and he invited me up there to Foxborough. I got to go in Gillette Stadium, sit in the back of the stat booth, kind of watch how the magic happens there. Because those NFL stats, I don't know if you've ever played fantasy football, but those NFL stats drive fantasy football and probably Las Vegas as well. But who are you cheering for this weekend?
Well, I'm definitely not cheering for Tom Brady. I'm a Falcons fan. I'm a Georgia fan. So I guess based on that, I'm rooting for the Chiefs, and just like to see them do something good this year.
Well, I'll tell you what, they were awesome last year, and they're actually picked to win. And I was listening to Jay Black on WSB today, and he thinks they're going to pull away in the fourth quarter. It'd be tight the first three, but man, I just don't think you can underestimate Tom Brady. I mean, he's a miracle worker. Came from the Patriots, right, grabs the Bucks, and off they go. But hey, we're neither one of us are an expert on football, so why don't we talk about something you're an expert on, and that's environmental engineering. And I know that, it seems like, David, that as I travel the state as commissioner, and I mean, we want economic development in Georgia. We want more industry, more factories. And and as companies come down and preview Georgia, I guess they're seeing lands that are brownfield, or maybe they had an old gas station on it, had an old dry cleaning on it, or somehow there's problems, with a stream or something. But I mean, is this a common issue that you get calls about, that you work on at United Consulting?
Oh, definitely. And it's funny, we joke about that all the easy sites are gone. That, from a development standpoint, the sites that were high ground that didn't have problems, those have all been developed and are gone. The more difficult sites to develop are now the ones that people are looking at. The sites that people walked away from 10, 15, 20 years ago are now they're coming back to and looking at trying to figure out a way to make those sites work.
Yeah. So, I know that our interaction with the EPA and the Georgia EPD, I mean, these regs evolve, and you've dealt with these agencies forever. I mean, you've been in this business. How many years you've been doing this?
Over 25 years, 26 plus.
So you've got to have seen a lot of evolution when it comes to environmental regs. I mean, what are the new requirements these days?
Yeah, it's interesting, Tim. It's really quite crazy that how much it's changed over the years. What you could do and what was allowed 25 plus years ago when I started doing this, and what you can do today is dramatically different. And it is always changing. It's always something new. Most recently, we have had changes to the definition for waters of the United States. That was implemented and became effective in June of 2020. So we do have a new definition for waters of the U.S. and how we interpret whether a stream or a wetland is going to be regulated by the Corps of Engineers. And then in addition to that, we have new permit requirements that are coming into place that will take effect in March of this year, coming up March 15th. The Corps of Engineers has made some modifications and issued some new nationwide permits, and they are making changes to those, and those will become effective in March. So it is constantly changing. It's one of those things that does make our job a little more difficult, is staying on top of what the rules and regulations are and understanding that process.
I mean, David, if a company's coming here and they don't do their due diligence, and they don't count the cost or factor everything in, and they get bad advice, how does that impact you later?
Oh, it can be a huge issue. I mean, let's just say, for example, if you wait to do some of the investigations, some of your due diligence and you find out later, it can affect obviously what you've paid for the piece of property, the cost that you have into what you're going to have to do from a construction standpoint, whether it's mitigation credits, whether it's modifying your site plan because now you found something you didn't know existed. It's very important to evaluate the property on the front end, whether we're talking about stream and wetland issues or whether we're talking about environmental contamination issues. It's very important to look at that on the front end. We've certainly had sites where client had a property under contract, found something that was going to cost them a lot more money from a development standpoint in remediation and mitigation, and they were able to then go back to the seller and negotiate a better price and purchase the property for quite a bit less than what they had originally proposed. So it's definitely something that you want to look at on the front end and make sure you know what those limitations are and what you have to do as far as jumping through the different hoops to get to where you want to go.
It sounds like what I've done with a home inspector in the past, buying a home, right? You get a home inspector, they find all these things, and you go back to the seller and go, hey, you got $15,000 worth of stuff here, and you wind up getting a cheaper price and more than covers the cost of the inspection, probably 50-fold it covers the cost. I mean, is it the same way in your business that you do this work up front for the client and they go back, renegotiate more than covering your fees?
Oh, yeah. Oftentimes, that's certainly the case. I mentioned one a minute ago. In that particular case, it was a relatively small parcel our client had under contract for $1.2 million. They found an issue, or we found an issue on the site when we were going through the due diligence for them. They ended up buying the site for about $600,000 because they had about that much in cost, or almost that much in costs for the remediation work they were going to have to do. That particular site was a contamination site where they had to go in and do a bunch of remedial work. So, it's definitely one of those things that can dramatically influence the cost, what they're going to spend in the long run on the development of a site.
As we wrap up here this Friday afternoon, I think about how unique Georgia is, right? You got the marsh down there. I've been watching them kind of cut the Golden Ray in pieces and remove that thing out of that St. Simon Sound, and the oil slicks that I'm seeing and debris washing up. I mean, all of these things matter. And it seems like, David, that more and more people, and I see that duck and that turkey behind you on your wall, that more and more of my friends that are hunters and that are out there in the environment using it recreationally, they care about this stuff. And I'm seeing collectively more of a move to be a better steward of our land, our water, our waterways, all of that, just because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think, you certainly get that, I think, across the board. You still have some folks out there that, would just rather do whatever they want to do. But I think across the board, yes, there's more. Part of it, too, is the regulations and some of the rules have made it more, you got it more on the front end where people are recognizing and understanding it, that people have dealt with it before. But certainly for some of these folks, it creates a heartache when they don't know about it on the front end, when they don't know about it early in the process. And then late down the road, all of a sudden something pops up and they're not prepared for it. So, there's a lot of it that's better education out there, but there's also, I agree that people are just more aware of it. They're more cognizant of it and have dealt with it before. So you're getting a little better compliance in some of those areas.
Well, thanks for joining me on Ask the Expert. Good luck in all that you're doing with United Consulting. Folks can see unitedconsulting.com on the bottom of the screen and reach out to you if they've got concerns. What else is your company involved in besides just environmental stuff?
Well, we do, as you may know, we also have a geotechnical department. So, a lot of the stuff we do is for, the built environment, or for when somebody wants to, hey, I'm going to buy a piece of property, I'm going to build something on it. Well, they need to know what they're dealing with going into it. But then obviously when they start constructing and building that, we do construction materials testing. We have a geophysical department. So we can do ground penetrating radar surveys and all that kind of thing that people need to know, again, know what they're getting into, know what they're buying. But then as they start building it, making sure for anybody that's a Monty Python fan of, I built this castle and it fell into the swamp, or it sunk into the swamp, and I built another one that sunk into the swamp, and the third castle it stood. Well, we don't want their first two to sink into the swamp. We want the first one to stand up. So.
All right. Well, go Bucks. And I know you disagree with that, but what about as we wrap up? I'm about to go marinate my chicken wings, right? I'm about to start that marinade.
All right.
There's a lot of chicken wings that are consumed over Super Bowl weekend. You got a favorite Super Bowl food?
I don't, and it's funny. This year is going to be so funny. It's going to be so strange because they were talking about how many people are really going to get out and go to big Super Bowl parties with the pandemic going on, and I think that my son, who's a big football fan, I think he and I will probably sit here and watch the game. If it gets out of hand one way or the other, I might just go to bed.
All right. Well, thanks for being on Ask the Expert today.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. See you later.
All right. Bye-bye.